Welcome to another episode of Tomb of Annihilation, Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, featuring Kashcah as the GM.
Hi.
Rorax as Aelia. Aelia?
Yeah,
Aelia.
that's me. Sorry, I haven't been here for the last couple of episodes, guys.
It happens.
Yeah.
Playing a Centaur Cleric, who is especially good at killing things. Or re-killing things.
Yeah, that's better.
Then we have Nerevar,
That was me.
who is playing Tobias Salazar and Arokh Ironscale, and is a human spatial sorcerer, if I am not mistaken, yes?
Yes, correct.
Yes.
That is correct.
Yes. And for those that have an interest, both Rorax and Nerevar are both streamers, as well as I know that Rorax also runs a YouTube channel, and I've got their links in the description below on YouTube. And I think I might have it on Twitch as well. I can't remember, but I should. If not, I will. Kellisto will not be joining us today. She should be joining us next time that we have an opportunity to play. So she will be absent and played by our illustrious GM. And then we have Lyssa,
That's me.
playing, Valia, Bonesmasher,
Yes.
the Barbarian foot muncher. Barbarian Lizardfolk. And then, of course, myself, Ulfgar, playing a Dwarven Bard of the Emerald Enclave. So, the general idea is we're on Chult, a land filled with dinosaurs. We've been set on a quest to try and quell the undeath plague that is causing people that have died and been resurrected before to waste away to nothingness. Along the way, we've been distracted, but as of last time, let's actually bring up the quest log here.
I like how you say waste away to nothingness. Like it's like never-ending story is what I picture. You know, just people disappearing into the nothing.
The nothing. Yes, we have to go seek out the advice
You've
of
got to give it a name, and it'll be fine.
We have. It's called the Soulmonger. So yeah,
Okay.
so everything's fine. But last episode, our adventurers were torn as to what to do when they came across a Tyrannosaurus Rex that was snuggling like a little snuggy blanket a people, one person who was left of a party of people that had probably been devoured, most likely, from the amount of grossness that was left on the ground. But that one person seemed to be alive. Through a lot of debate, the party was able to distract the T-Rex enough that they could grab the individual left and escape with their lives. Sadly, though, upon trying to soothe him that evening, it did not go well. While everybody slept, this character did not, wandered off in the middle of the night, through the jungle, fell into a great pit that had a swampy dragon skeleton floating in it. But he fell some distance, must have hit his head or something like that, drowned, died, don't know. He's dead in the lake, river, water structure. So forgive me.
Juice.
Yes, juice. I'm not myself today. I'm a little bit under the weather. But so we left him there and decided to continue on because we were very close to Kirsabal, and we didn't really feel like facing a T-Rex since it was relatively close to the area. Kirsabal is the main city that we have been informed of the Aarakocra, which are a bunch of bird people, or something like that. Do we have the handouts for those still?
Do you want to see an Aarakocra?
Yeah, do you have the handout ready?
I can get one real quick, like.
Hold on a second. Creature named NPC. Oh, there it is. I got it. Aarakocra. There we go. La cucaracha. We got... No, that's cockroach in Spanish. So these people here, which we came here specifically because we had rescued one originally when Nerevar had first joined our party, or Nerevar's character rather. And he said that we should come there so that we can fly. And we thought, hey, you know what? This would be a great way of trying to find a necromancer's hideout. Maybe they grant us some ability or something like that. I don't know. Maybe they just help us. All help is appreciated. We're dying out here in the jungle, so...
Little do you know that when he said they could help you fly, all he was actually talking about was chucking you off the top of the cliff.
Right, which is...
You're going to fly.
Which is also potentially a thing that could happen. It doesn't seem a lot of allies are to be had. Speaking of, we still have yet to see our allies that we were supposed to meet in Mesro, but left because we kept getting attacked. Figured it would be best if we moved on and left a message in hopes that we would meet them in Kashcah. So
it's like the Sky Gate in Game of Thrones. That's how they make you fly. Just chuck you out.
Excuse me. So there you go. That's where I recall us being left off at. Kashcah, take it away.
Yeah, so maybe I can set the scene a little bit. So you've been walking for quite a few days now since you left Mesro, and you're pretty close to Kashcah. You've kind of maybe gone off course a little bit during your travel. But you're coming up kind of early afternoon of your day's travel, and you've been glimpsing through the trees as you get closer and closer. Through the kind of upper canopy of the jungle, you can see this great cliff rising in front of you as there's some kind of tectonic activity of millennium ago have created this massive shift in the Earth's crust. So this great cliff is before you, and as you get closer and closer, you can see. First thing you notice actually is activity from the cliff, which consists of bird people. Aarakocra, as Vallen said, is coming and going. So this is kind of the first thing that tips you off that you're in the right place. Is they're taking off and landing fairly constantly, and you see quite a few of them. Actually, it's like a little town of them. And as you come up to the base of the cliff, you start to see the buildings on the side of the cliff, and one that looks like it's fairly well at the top. So I am going to move you over to this map, and hopefully everybody can see the bit that's cut out. Hopefully. Can you see?
The entire center section?
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So that's what you see as you come up to the kind of base of the cliff. There's a walkway that ekes its way up the front of it, and there's, as you can see, there's various kind of plant life hanging on as well. Little tiny outcroppings, as you might imagine, collect life. So you see little trees whose roots are barely kind of grabbing onto the surface of the rock, and lots of plant life and vines. In amongst this is this wooden structure, this wooden walkway. And let me read some text, some flavor text to you. Okay. An ancient monastery overlooks the jungle from its perch on the cliff of a tall plateau. Stone steps and rickety walkways connect the various buildings, the lowest of which is 500 feet above the ground. The main building has a circular maze-like symbol carved into its crumbling facade. And every few minutes, bird folk either land at the monastery or launch themselves from its balconies to take to the sky. So looking at this, these buildings have been on the side of this cliff face for quite a while.
Them being referred to as bird folk makes me think lizard folk, and then I'm like, oh, what are humans? Are they flesh folk? I mean, sorry, just Off tangent.
Meat bags, that's what you are.
Meat bags, there you go. I am a meat popsicle.
Indeed.
So there's no easy way of getting up there, is there? I have no idea the distance from like where we might be down here at the bottom to the 30 feet. Like, That's assuming that we're welcome there.
So let's see, do I have the right thing selected? Yes, I do. Okay. So here, right, this first chunk of kind of walkway that's on this like visual aid here is 500 feet above ground level.
Gotcha. I think that this is the time for Tobias and Arokh to go and say hi to the natives.
I couldn't agree more.
So you do feel like, I mean, it is climbable, right? But you would need, some measure of strength or skill to do so.
Something makes me think the GM isn't keeping in mind that one of the party members has hooves.
Yes, Ulfgar would look over
Yeah.
and start going,
These are, yes.
Climb.
Well, before we start attempting to scale this in any way, shape, or form, I think we should see if we're welcome here.
We already have been spotted.
There are, yes, you can see kind of, there's a couple of Aarakocra circling high above you. It's like they're keeping an eye on you.
I try waving at one of them. Excuse me, get their attention to come down.
Yeah, he just takes his wing and waves like, no, I'm just kidding. No, his wings are currently in use, so he's not,
I pulled my short bow out. No.
No. Wow. Okay.
Oh, look, a flying monkey. Oh. So Tobias and Arokh, would you mind going and greeting them and seeing if we could perhaps roost here for the night? See if our friend made it. See if our friend returned safely as well. The one that was with you.
You roost?
I was making a pun.
Oh.
Fine then.
A what?
I'm not sure if I will go fly up, it will be wise. They might treat us like danger.
Right. This is why I figure we should make ourselves very visible and try to be as nice as possible. It'd be nice to have those that don't want to forcefully recruit us or imprison us.
I just step forward and start yelling, "Hey, any Aarakocra that are up there can hear me? Can you come down here and talk to us, please?"
That was actually quite polite for you. I'm rather impressed.
I just glance at you from the corner of my eye and then look back up to see if anybody responds.
What language are you shouting in? Common?
Yeah, just common. 'Cause I'm not sure if they speak common or not, so we're just going to try that.
Oh, wait, that's right. Our friend didn't speak common. He spoke a different language, didn't he? Shoot.
Yeah. And do you remember his name?
I have to go back through my journal to see.
I don't, because I don't even know if I have my journal with me. My table's a mess right now because we're in the midst of moving. I don't remember. I do remember I cast Comprehend Language so I could talk with him. He seemed to understand me, but he didn't speak Common. Let's go over here. What languages do I know? Nothing that's going to help us there.
I'll just use, I'm not sure what they spoke because I think I forgot to write that down. But I'll just try to speak with animals and yell again and see what happens.
There is no response to either of your yells.
Oh dear.
I yell in Draconic. I'm trying.
Just rotate through the languages.
Yeah.
One of these.
Yeah, Aelia joins in with some Sylvan.
Okay, that's no use.
No, Sylvan is there's the same level of response for Sylvan as well, which is none, basically.
Okay then, I guess we don't have much choice. I'll go with Arokh and try to aim for the lowest ledge just to land on.
Okay.
That's very respectful of you.
I just hope that I do not get swooshed.
Yes, please don't get swooshed.
That would be bad. Swooshing is bad. So you fly up and you see it is like a wooden walkway, and these buildings are they look like, as you get closer you can see like these buildings here and these ones here. They look kind of like a little bit more like houses or dwellings. And as you kind of come in for a landing, and as you start flying up as well, some of the Aarakocra who have been keeping an eye on you kind of mirror what you're doing and swoop in to land beside you.
Okay.
And hang on one sec, let me check one thing here really quick.
I should took Ulfgar with me.
So they don't seem particularly aggressive towards you, but they do. They're talking to you in a language that you can't understand. So there's a few sentences that come towards you, or that they're saying that, and then they look at you with kind of a bird tilt, bird head tilt. Wait for you to answer.
Peekaboo.
I'm just nervously going to bow my head.
Okay. They kind of look at each other and say some stuff, and then they say again a couple of sentences, but they sound quite different this time. But it's still, unfortunately, not able to understand. And again, you get kind of the bird head tilt, like.
Okay, I'm raising my hand with stop gesture and try to back off and pick up Ulfgar.
So they get really kind of like frowny face, look at you, watch you as you kind of fly down.
All right.
Come over, I need you.
Why? What did they say?
No clue.
Oh right, I forgot. They don't speak our language normally. They don't speak common. All right. Can Arokh handle both of us?
Maybe one over the time. Said Arokh.
All right. Do you mind, Arokh, then? If I mount up?
Just hurry up and get on my back.
Okay. I'd best I cast the spell now, then. Shh. Comprehend languages, I cast it.
Okay.
Don't forget feather falling.
That's only if needs be.
They shove you off.
Yeah. All right, so we're up. And you said there's two of them?
Yep, there's two of them. They're kind of perched, around here-ish.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just kind of watching you.
Come on up, and I'll speak in plain common to start with and say, hello, can you understand me?
They just look at you blankly.
I'll try in Goblin, in Giant, in... what else do I have?
Dwarvish. As you're rotating through, they kind of, one of them holds their hand up, and then says to you, actually, so let me see. For the duration, you understand the literal meaning of any spoken word that you hear. You also understand. Oh, but okay. So it says to you, greetings. Who are you, and what business do you have?
I'd put my hand on my chest and say, Ulfgar. And then I'd direct towards Arokh and say, Arokh. And then I would... I'd kind of like make a motion for like shaking hands of some sort and point at one of them and say, I'm assuming that they still don't understand me. So, trying to communicate that we've got a friend here.
Okay. So...
Lyssa, I don't suppose you found that note, did you?
Nope, I must have forgotten that part. I guess while he's doing that, since I had already cast my Speak with Animals, I'm curious to see what kind of weird, messed up stuff Flippy's gonna say.
So...
not to put the GM on the spot and stuff, but
Wait, say it again? What are you curious
I said I'm playing with Flippy, and I want to see what kind of random stuff he says, since I use my Speak with Animals. So I just want to use it. I'm playing, I have his fish out, and I'm playing with him,
I would say...
Give me the fish, give me the fish. Give me. That's like... If you've got dry fish out, that's what Flippy is like. Give me.
That's all y'all hear from him is, give me the fish, give me the fish.
While I'm making the friendship motion, I would say Nefrir. I found my notebook.
Hey.
They say, when you you kind of introduce yourself in Arokh, one of them puts his hand up to his chest and says, Srera. And the other one puts his hand up to his chest and says, Keek.
Srera and Keek?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. Let's put this in the quest log so everyone will have this. Edit. Srera and Keek. Arriving at Kir Sabal, we met Srera, Srera, and
Sure.
Keek.
Keek.
Keeke.
Okay.
It's almost like Kiki, but I don't know. Keek. All right. So again, I guess I would.
So yeah, when you say Nefrir,
mm-hmm.
They say you kind of see it like an expression of recognition, and they say, "You know Nefrir?"
Yes, and I would shake my head yes, and I would make like a motion of like removing manacles. Like this, where you probably can't see because you're not on Discord. But I'm like grasping my hand and releasing.
They kind of there's some like recognition there, and Keek says to Sarir, "Can you get Nefrir?" So Sarir flaps away.
Okay.
And Keek says, what do you need with the Aarakocra?
And make a symbol of like flying hands.
He looks at you kind of like quizzically, well, a little bit dubious, like he's not quite trusting. And then he asks, why? Well, he's just kind of making small talk conversation while he waits for Nefrir to return. And after a few minutes, Nefrir does arrive and sees you and immediately kind of greets you, with a hearty. He puts his hand out for a strong kind of hearty handshake. And
definitely return
when you take his hand, he does a thing where he clasps his hand over yours and he's shaking your hand.
Oh, yeah.
He's very happy to see you.
Do the same. And I motion to the rest of the group down below.
Oh, he says to Keek, he says, we should bring them up. And then Nefer says to you, I'm surprised to see you. I didn't think you would make it.
Assuming that because we spoke together before, he's one of the few that understands common, so I would speak again. But I would say, to be honest, I wasn't sure we would either. It's been a hard journey.
So he seems to catch like some words of that and enough to kind of. He says yes, and
excuse me.
And then
said if you're bringing the rest of the group up, we have a centaur. Could be challenging.
He looks at you blankly, as not understanding.
You'll see.
He's got broken common. I don't think he knows what the word centaur means.
Yeah.
You know?
Horse person.
So down below, you guys see, one Aarakocra leave from talking to Ulfgar, another one return. It's kind of difficult from this distance to make out who it is. And then not long after, you see, several more Aarakocra, along with one of the ones from the ledge, kind of swooping down towards you.
And Ulfgar is kind of like, waving, like, come on up type thing. I don't know if you guys would even be able to hear him up there, but maybe you see, like, a hand gesture. He's like kind of just waving and like motioning to come up.
I just look around seeing these bird guys. I'm like, I think we're fixing to be attacked. I just like grab Flippy and pull him close to me.
Seriously.
Yeah, I back towards Valia as well. Like, just concerned with what's happening.
I should go down. I'm like pointing down to let them know that they're going to be carried. We weren't sure how we were going to be received. So I'd ask Arokh to start taking off.
He says, I'll come with you.
Okay. So start flying back down.
Wouldn't Arokh have basically told Tobias what was going on? You have a like a psychic link to him, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. So yeah, he could probably understand anything that I was saying.
So like we're backing up and we're like, Tobias, I think we're gonna be attacked.
Then you are wrong.
I was waiting for him to say yes.
Aarakocra for dinner tonight.
Chicken wings. All right. So we'd go down and I'd point at Vorn and say, "Stay." He can stay.
I just laugh.
I forget that we have Vorn with us.
Yeah, I just laugh and Vorn just like he just looks at you and looks back at me.
I'd hop off of Arokh as well.
Aelia looks considerably more relaxed.
So Aelia, you see the Aarakocra that land first seem to be kind of surveying the party, and they're doing like a little head count, and then they look at Vorn and just like, nope.
Yeah, and Ulfgar's like, no. He stays here.
They're looking at you, Aelia, and there's some kind of conversation between the two that have arrived down at the ground, and then one of them goes back up, and a few moments later you see returning with backup. So there's some discussion on the ground once they've got all their their kind of folks together. And one of them, Valia, one of them is kind of cautiously approaching you, and he says, "Go up," and points up.
I look down at Flippy and I look back at the bird. I'm like, I push Flippy towards him, here, Flippy, go with him.
Okay. So he looks a little bit confused. You go up? And he's pointing at you, Valia.
I'm like, okay. I tell Vorn to just sit down and wait for us.
Vorn does a big thud on the
It's
ground.
probably gonna freak them out. I look at Ulfgar. I'm like, this is your idea of help? They're just gonna grab a hold of us like giant birds and eagles and take us up to the top of this mountain?
Yeah, more or less, yes. This is all part of us being enclaves as well. We're making good relations with these nice folk that have helped us.
I don't remember flying being in my contract. I don't like to fly.
Then why did you climb that?
Then you can stay with Vorn.
You can stay here if you like.
The Aarakocra says, "No drop."
So I just look at Flippy and I'm like, okay, Flippy, sit with Vorn. Vorn, protect Flippy. And then I look at the Aarakocra. I'm like, oh, okay. I just nod my head.
Okay.
All right. Before we take off, like just before they start picking people up, I will cast Featherfall on each of us except for Arokh.
Okay. Very good.
If anything, it might just make it easier for them to carry us.
Yeah, for sure. Kellisto is gonna polymorph into well, not polymorph, but wild shape. That's the
Into a flying squirrel.
No, she's going to wild shape into something tiny, little mouse, and crawl into somebody's pocket. If there's a volunteer to,
I'll take it.
then, Aelia, two of the Aarakocra approach you, and are kind of pointing like, "Oh."
I tentatively nod. I'm a little concerned with how they're going to manage.
Ulfgar said, "I've cast a spell on you that even if they do stumble or have difficulty, you'll still float gently down."
It still doesn't fill me with confidence, Ulfgar.
We'll be safer up there than down here with the rest of the monsters.
Right, that big dinosaur was a nightmare.
I have confidence that
And
Vorn
she nods to the Aarakocra.
Vorn can protect this little guy here.
And these Aarakocra do look like you're looking at the one that's going to carry Ulfgar, and he looks like a fairly medium build dude, and you look at the two that are coming towards you, and they're like beefy Aarakocra.
Hans und Franz.
Yeah. And they kind of take you under like your arm. Well, they encourage you to put your arm like up around their shoulders, and they'll actually put an arm under your front leg on either side. So they're doing this on either side. So they're kind of supporting you.
She'll awkwardly try to accommodate them.
Okay.
Stepping over their arms and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're just gonna have dangling horse butt?
Yeah.
Dangling horse butt.
I'm Hans und I'm Franz, and we are
She'll
here
probably
to
be
fly you.
kicking all the way up.
So after a fashion, they do manage to get everybody up to they're going to take you up to here, actually.
Okay. The chat has just called them beefy bird folk.
Beefy bird mode. Yep. Which is kind of like is the next special from McDonald's. I feel like. Sorry. So they're dropping you off kind of here, and you do see like from here on out, the platforms and walkways seem to be a little better repair than the ones.
Excuse me.
Lower down.
Right.
So they drop you off there, and all of them except for Nefrir take back off again from the walkway and leave you with Nefrir.
Aelia takes a look over the side and very quickly slams herself against the side of one of the buildings. If the water was bad for her, then elevation is worse.
It is a dizzying height, for sure.
If it please you, just stick by me, and then if anything bad should happen, I'll still make sure that we can all float down.
Okay.
All right. So, basically, I guess I just want to talk to Nefrir about this whole offer he had before of learning to fly. What exactly did he mean?
So Nefrir says, we should talk to Asharra. He says she is the leader of our community.
Will she understand me?
He says, yes, she will.
Does she speak common? Because
she does.
Oh, good. I can't maintain
taught
this spell
me.
forever. Right. Okay. Shall we then? Or is now a bad time?
He says she'll most likely be in the monastery. And he points up to the kind of larger building up above you here.
It's very immersive having the birds in the background.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
I like him.
That's some of the Aarakocra. Right. Okay. So shall we go then, or?
He says yes. Let's. And you do see. So the path forward goes up and kind of into this building.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can see up above an opening where the walkway proceeds out. So you have to kind of go through this building here in order to get further up to the monastery.
With the is it stairs inside? I would hope, and not a ladder.
You can find out.
Okay. I would like to find out.
Okay.
This way then, as I'm talking to everybody. So they might be able to catch. I don't know if Nefrir was talking in common to me or not.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
He kind of remembers from your previous encounter that you don't understand. Okay, so when you enter this building, this is what you see. So this is you see kind of this lower chamber that has like a wash basin at the end of it.
Mm-hmm. And a ladder.
With smaller vessels around it.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like clay pots or jugs around it, and there's about half a dozen of them. And you see Nefrir says, first we must wash. And you see he goes right up to the wash basin and performs this kind of ritual washing. He starts with his hands and also washes his feet and his face and goes through this kind of whole ceremonial thing. And once he's done washing, he reaches into the clay pots that you saw, and pulls out a sprinkling of dust and like puts a sprinkling over either of his wings. He stretches his lovely wings out and puts a sprinkling of this dust over his wings. And then he goes over to another clay pot and does the same thing again. Puts a sprinkling of dust over each of his wings. The first dust that he puts on his wings is a white dust. And then the second one that he puts on his wings is very shiny, kind of yellow color.
I asked Nefer, for us, I have no wings. Over shoulders?
He says, yes, that will do nicely.
How do we get her up there?
Aelia turns to Ulfgar and answers the question for herself. She says, Ulfgar, please touch your toes. Just amuse me.
Right.
And now climb a ladder like that.
Ah. Right. This is why I
it's doable, but it's uncomfortable.
Right. Okay. Something you have.
And I might not make it all the way.
Fair enough. Ulfgar starts taking his armor off.
Okay.
Which that'll take him like 10 minutes, by the way. So he's wearing half-plate armor. So
yeah, Kellisto climbs out of your pocket and wild shapes back to her usual self, and proceeds with washing.
Okay.
Washing and dusting.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I'll just step up and start doing it. I don't have armor on, so.
Aelia starts taking off her various religious garb and leather armor.
I asked Nefer if it's alright if we, leave our belongings here at the side of the wash area.
He says, you can do that or bring them with you. It's no problem.
So we can put them back on after we wash. Very well. Excuse me. So he'll do his best to mimic everything that Nefer did for the wash and dusting, and then put the armor back on.
Excuse me, it's face, hands, feet. White dust over the shoulders, and then the other dust over the shoulders. Can I have a memory for these things, Ulfgar?
Right.
I'm just like mumbling under my breath. Dirt stand in my scales. Food. Just hungry. Just like mumbling to myself over there.
I think you'd be happy to splashing some water on yourself.
But now I'm muddy because there's dust on my shoulders.
You see when you guys are doing the yellow shiny dust, it does look very much like gold dust.
I'd like to inspect that a little bit if possible.
Sure, make a investigation check.
Okay. Boop. 15.
Yep, you're pretty sure this is gold dust.
I keep it to myself.
It looks, this pot looks like it's valuable, considering.
Yeah, I'm not about to steal from these people.
Yeah, I'm too busy mumbling to myself to pay attention.
Okay. So is anybody going to not wash? Let's do that.
Flippy and Vorn.
Alright. Negative 20 experience. No, I'm just kidding.
I imagine Tobias would work with Arokh to get Arokh covered.
Yeah, I kind of have to do this for him.
Here, I'll come over and help. I just toss the dust up in the air.
You see Nefer is frowning at you. Does a little
I'm just like, sorry, he's really tall and I can't reach.
You're really tall.
So once everybody's washed and dusted, Nefrir does kind of motion to go up the ladder and proceeds on to kind of the next. He climbs up himself. He proceeds on to the next base up.
Do you want me to roll for the ladder climb?
You know, it's not that high, and I know that I'm fairly certain your friends would help you if you needed it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't feel like there's much value in that roll, I guess.
Okay.
So when you get up into the next space up, it looks like this. Oh, there we go, right, like that. And this X, or the little star symbol, is probably the first thing you notice because it's a 5-foot tall wooden statue. Statue is quite old, but curiously, this actually doesn't say what the statue is of. All right, fine. But it does looks quite worn, basically.
Okay.
In fact, it's so worn that it's really difficult to tell what it was. At the base of the statue, you see there's flowers and offerings of food have been placed around the base of the statue. And then over to the side, you see a set of shelves, some wooden shelf, kind of case of wooden shelves.
Mm-hmm.
And the shelves have candles and scarves of a variety of lovely colors, basically, bright and very cheerful.
Okay.
And Nefrir goes over to the shelves and offers each of you one of these scarves, and also will take one for himself, and he puts it over his head.
I'll take it and try and mimic what he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just draped kind of over his head. So.
Nefrir, do we make an offering? She points to the stuff at the base of the wall statue.
He says, if you're able.
Can we make any offering?
He says, usually it's, as you see, food or flowers or fauna from the jungle.
Okay. She takes some of her rations and places them at the base of the statue.
Okay.
I'll say 2 rations.
Okay.
So I'll pick up one of these scarves and like put it over my head, but it has to go over the goblin mask that I have on top of my head. I forgot I had that on my head, but yeah, I put it on and then I walk over to the shrine and I pull out my last dancing monkey fruit and a couple of my dried fish and place it on the thing. And I look at Ulfgar. You're lucky. This is the last one. I'm showing him the monkey fruit and I'll put it down.
Ulfgar says, right.
Aelia looks sad. She quite enjoyed it.
Excuse me. Ulfgar pulls out a vial of perfume and says, would this be appropriate? And he unjars it and kind of wafts it a little bit towards him.
Nefrir says, whatever you think. He says, it's up to, you what you decide to offer.
He puts the stopper back in and he sets that in.
Okay.
As offer.
Okay.
Upon hearing that, Aelia realized she misunderstood him, and then she takes one of her sets of misery beads off her wrist and puts it under the statue. They have a very very dubious name, but it's not a dubious purpose.
He does a little, and Nefrir kind of bows his head to you when you do this. Like he recognizes that this is kind of something more personal. Okay. So, then Nefrir kind of gestures out the door here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it helps if I have the pointer selected, doesn't it? Out the door here. To proceed kind of up the walkway to the monastery.
Ulfgar holds his hand out for Aelia.
And she gladly takes it.
Okay, so you walk up. There's fairly steep steps, but they are actual stairs instead of being a ladder, as you can see, and then enter the monastery. And this is pretty much what you see when you come in the front doors there. So let me get you a slightly better description. So let's see. So this is the main hall of the monastery. It's a fairly impressive sight. The rafters of the ceiling are 60 feet up above the floor. And you can see that the thatched roof, the roof is thatched is what you can see, and that raises another 15 feet above that. Space is large enough that actually you see Aarakocra could fly in it if they wanted to, you think. In the middle of the room, you see this, again, circular labyrinth symbol. It's laid out kind of in a mosaic on the floor. It's about 25 feet in diameter. And you do see another Aarakocra. Let me just move him. Oh.
I don't see the man in black, do I?
No, you don't. There we go. You see another Aarakocra. He appears to be in meditation at the symbol on the floor. And then you also see a staircase going up to the side and two doorways. One, I don't think that's quite revealed, is it? One is, let me just do that there. One is to one side, and it's just an opening, kind of, and then the other one is to the other side, and is an actual closed door. There we go. So that you can kind of get a glimpse through this opening to the side that it looks like this is like over there. You think that's like a hallway.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see another closed door just beyond that. Let me do this actually. So you can kind of see like that. Closed door beyond that.
Okay.
This is what you see.
Just following Nefrir's lead at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, let me find out. So you do hear that, like, you can hear quite a bit more Aarakocra activity. There's a lot more kind of chattering and you see up above, from the kind of banisters up above Aarakocra kind of peeking over. There seems to be a fair amount of curiosity about you. It seems like perhaps they don't get visitors very often, and quite a few of them are curious to see who is here.
Not surprised that they don't get visitors too often.
Nefrir encourages you to wait here actually, and he says he will go and seek out Asharra and bring her to you. He says she's most likely in her quarters. So kind of he'll be right back, kind of thing.
Okay, and we're just supposed to lounge here in this meditative area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess I'd kind of like go into this corner here and just kind of like sit myself down and just kind of wait.
Okay. And you do see like after a few minutes, the Aarakocra that is meditating at this symbol on the floor does kind of he gets up. He was kind of kneeling, and he gets up and bows his head towards you and the group, and then heads off up the stairs as well. So he kind of disappears out of view after a while, but before actually, I have that open. I do. Before Nefria returns, you instead see a human, young woman. You hear her kind of. You hear her coming before you even see her. From up above, you hear her, and you hear her speaking in what you could assume was, well, it's one of the languages that you've heard the other Aarakocra speak.
Mm-hmm.
And wait, you've got an hour on that comprehend languages, don't you?
I do.
I'm trying to decide. And that was quite a while ago because you had to get
20 minutes minimum for my armor.
Yeah,
Putting it on and
okay,
off.
so I think that's expired by now. So, but
okay.
but you hear like the Aarakocra have like kind of a distinct vocal pattern because they're speaking, with a different set of like their biology is just different, right? So their voices sound different.
Mm-hmm.
This sounds like a human voice, and you hear her way before you see her, but she's speaking in a language that you've heard the Aarakocran speak. And she's kind of chattering away, and the tone doesn't sound particularly friendly. And then you see her kind of as she steps out onto this balcony here and looks down at you. And she kind of walks up to the balcony in a very regal kind of manner and puts her hands on this wooden, balustrade that's across the top, and looks down at you. And two things, right? So first, she says to the whole group, "What a ragtag bunch we have here." But Tobias, you recognize her instantly from the dream that you had a while ago. And you hear, after she's made this comment on the rest of the group, you hear her you hear her in your mind. Obviously, she's not speaking. But she says to you, she says, "At last you are here." She says, "I was beginning to worry, but what are you doing with these people?" And then, after a brief kind of pause, she starts proceeding further down the stairs towards towards all of you. And I can show you what she looks like. Got a little handout here, I think. Boop. Let me just share this with you. There we go. So she's the taller one of the the two there. And she is kind of wearing more decorative clothing than you've seen. Like, especially the Aarakocra who was meditating in here was in very simple clothing. She's in this kind of quite decorative cloak, and she's got this circlet and jewelry and kind of fine skirts and bodice to her dress. So she's quite decoratively dressed.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Interesting.
I just look at Ulfgar. I'm like, well.
Is Nefrir with her?
No, he's not.
Well, I guess I'd stand up. She was speaking to us in common, yeah?
Yes.
I'd stand up and do the little bow/curtsy thing. And
Aelia interrupts and says, "Aren't you an interesting Aarakocra?" She folds her arms.
She says, "It's the first time I've seen a being of your kind. But that doesn't give an excuse for you to be rude." And then she looks at you, Ulfgar, and she says, "I think you can do better than that when bowing to your queen."
Do I recognize this lady?
Pardon?
Do I recognize?
No, you don't.
Well, either way, he was going to, he was doing his bow thing and saying, "My lady."
And she says, "My queen." She's correcting you.
"Your Majesty." I guess I'm unfamiliar with your being among the Aarakocra here. I thought that they were all bird people that lived in this area. Only bird people that lived here.
She says, "Well, you do look fairly ignorant, so I'm not too surprised."
He kind of looks over at Valia when being called ignorant. Usually it's her that's calling him this, so.
I just kind of smirk a little bit.
But she just kind of she proceeds down the stairs. She's paused at a couple of steps up while you're having this conversation, just so that she can kind of keep she can continue to look down on you, and then once she's called you ignorant, Ulfgar, she takes the last couple of 2 steps down, so she's on the same floor as you, and then she proceeds over and stands in front of Tobias, and Tobias, I think she's probably just a little bit shorter than you, but she holds her hand out like this to you, Tobias, and stands there waiting.
Ulfgar just kind of shrugs a little bit.
I just look over and I'm like, just be careful she doesn't poison you.
But she's just holding her hand out right in front of you, Tobias.
She wants you to kiss it, boy.
I don't remember. Tobias never told us about this dream, right?
Right. Oh, I don't think he did. Did you,
No.
Tobias?
I don't think he did either. I was just making sure.
I did not. I'm just with highest hesitation. I just grab their hand, just gently, and I'm placing a light kiss. With the hardest hesitation.
She you see like the tiniest crack in her kind of. She's got this like facade of like, fierce kind of like fierce wait, what's the word I'm looking at? She's like fiercely regal is the kind of facade that she's trying to project to everybody. And when this happens, you see like her face, like there's just this tiniest moment where she like drops that facade for a second, and she kind of, you see her like almost like beaming, and then she no got to be fiercely regal. And but Tobias, you hear her say, do not be afraid. I know you are better than them.
I try and insight check her to see what the heck I think of her, if I really think she's royalty of some sort. Or if she's just messing with us while we're waiting for Nefrir to come back.
Yeah, go for it.
Alright, 1 second here. $13.
You're pretty sure that she believes what she's saying.
Okay. There's a lot of Aarakocra around here.
The birds don't like it. They're like, don't do it, don't do it. Well, Valia, she doesn't trust anybody new anyway, so she's just like, ugh. And then she calls, after she called Ulfgar an idiot, as humorous as it was, I'm just like, I just stand back behind everybody else and just keep an eye on her.
Yeah, and Tobias is not a very big fan of any kind of royalties.
I just kind of whispered to Aelia, and I'm like, I don't think this lady is as she seems. She's definitely not what she's acting like.
Aelia leans in and says to you, only trouble comes from a queen in a theocracy.
I just
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, Ulfgar has dealt with royalty before, but it just caught him off guard. He wasn't expecting royalty. He was more expecting a religious figure.
Mm-hmm. So there's this kind of awkward silence where she's standing with you. She seems to be kind of like, there's this like these brief moments of smiles and like almost like the tiniest bit of like bashfulness towards Tobias. Before, in between like fierce kind of like fierce like attitude towards the rest of you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this kind of like awkward couple of moments of silence going on, and the frostiness that she's kind of projecting towards all of you is very palpable as well. And then the silence is broken by a boy's voice, and he lets out some kind of screeches, imitating an Aarakocra, and proceeds like down the stairs. And you see him kind of like run across the balcony, and he's got his arms stretched out, and these homemade wings strapped to his arms. And he looks much younger, much younger actually than the young woman standing before you. And you see her like, oh god, like as soon as he enters the kind of picture, she hears him like running down the stairs, and then sees him like with his arms, and just this like, oh god, kind of look comes over her face, like, I was doing, my life was so good, and then he's got this thing.
Ayla beams at the boy and is so happy to see smiling youth. And she calls out to the boy, "When did you grow those wings, child?"
Ulfgar keeps an eye on the kid, fearing that he's going to actually attempt to use those wings, and will be prepared with Featherfall just in case.
So he does this kind of swoop round the corner of the balcony and then pushes his arms back behind him with his wings so that he can actually fit down the stairs, and then comes like running down the stairs towards you and then stops up short like when he gets to the bottom and is just kind of standing there looking at you. You think he's probably about like 6-7 years old. He is a human boy. And he strides up to you, Aelia, and says, "I made these myself." He puts his arm out.
Well, they're beautiful. You look so handsome.
He looks over at the young girl and goes, young woman sticks his tongue out at her. And,
I giggle out loud. I can't help it because I see her face turn and I'm just like, ha!
Would I see any family resemblance, like brother, sister, perhaps?
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me?
You don't need to make any kind of check for that. It's quite obvious. And this is, in the handout that you saw, he is the smaller of the two. Right, so
okay.
He's got these kind of homemade wings going on. But there's definitely family resemblance there.
Ayla kneels down before the boy and says, "May I inspect them?"
He says, "You have to be careful because the feathers sometimes fall off."
She very delicately grabs his hand and stretches his arm out and takes a look and nods very sternly like, "Yes, these are excellent quality." And then lets his hand go.
He is just beaming with pride, just like, "Yeah, I made these wings, fantastic." He's very happy about it. But he very openly asks all of you, "Who are you?"
"I'm Ulfgar." And he kind of like nudges Valia a bit.
I just look down. Said I'm a lizard person. And that's it. I don't say anything else.
That's Valia. Tobias is here, and this is Aelia.
Yes.
As well as Kellisto over there.
He's quite taken with Aelia and Valia. He's looking over you like inspecting, He's like he says, "I've seen you in my books," he says to you, Aelia. "But I never expected to see one in real life." And then he looks to you, Valia, and he's kind of looking you over as well. And he says, he seems like confounded. Like, "You look like," he says, "you look like Lizardfolk, but different." He says, I don't understand." He says, "Usually, and he like goes into this whole thing about usually lizard folk stand, 6 feet tall, and they're often weighing, and he has like the whole like slew of stats, to share with you about it. But he said, "Your nose is a bit different."
Yeah. I just nod. I'm like, yes, because I have my ancestor is an alligator, so my form has changed to suit my ancestor, which is why my nose is a little shaped differently, and my scales are a little bit different.
He's like, "I must add this to my book." And he's talking to you quite openly like this. When the young woman says, "Enough now. Go back to your studies."
I looked down. I was like, hey, hold on, we're having a conversation. And I look down at the little boy and I'm like, so what else would you like to know about us?
And it is at this point that you are interrupted by Nefrir and older-looking Aarakocra, who I'm going to show to you now. She's a little bit older-looking, but she is absolutely lovely-looking.
Asharra. Oh,
Asharra.
very, very lovely.
So grand.
So she, you see her and Nefrir return from, again, these stairs that are going up. Everybody seems to be appearing from up these stairs. And Asharra clears her throat as the young woman is scolding her young brother, her little brother. And the young woman says, she says, there's nothing to worry about here, she says. These people seem to be having some trouble grasping the time they're queen, she says, but I can educate them. So Asharra, kind of comes down the stairs with Nefrir behind her, and does kind of an acknowledging head tilt or head bow towards the young woman, and then the little boy actually kind of runs over to her and grabs her hand with his and says he points at Aelia and Valia and says, "Aren't they wonderful?" And stands there kind of holding her hand. And Asharra says to you, I see you have met our, some of our most important residents, she said. And the young woman says, some of them seem to be having trouble grasping how important. She's kind of like muttering under her breath. And then she turns to Tobias and says, we can speak later, she says. And her tone like immediately changes, like it's a softer tone, she says, we can speak later. And then she turns on her heel and heads back up the stairs. And the young boy kind of stays for a while with Asharra.
Ulfgar shoots Tobias a look with one raised eyebrow, like, what?
I think Tobias? Looking at Tobias, like, what the hell's going on?
Yep.
He's like, shrug.
Mm-hmm.
I say,
Excuse me.
We're not trying to be disrespectful, but when you just whenever somebody just automatically calls part of your party an idiot before we even know who people are, it kind of doesn't help. So, but we're not here to disrespect anybody. And I just look at Ulfgar like, is that okay?
Ulfgar just looks at Asharra and does a bow. And
I just nod my head after that, yeah.
Yep. Thank you for seeing us.
Seeing the real matriarch of this place. Aelia gives a very deep kneel with her front hooves.
Yes, so Asharra says, greetings. You are most welcome, she says. Nefrir has shared with me his story, many weeks ago, when he first returned, she says, and now I finally am able to meet the heroes of his tale. And she's speaking in pretty fluent common. It's a little difficult to kind of understand sometimes because her accent is quite strong, and again, just the different biology of speaking with a bird beak versus a human mouth. But she's quite fluent in common, and she says it is wonderful to meet you all. you are most welcome here.
Oh, well, thank you. It's very gracious
Thank
of
you.
you to have us here and allow us entry into your home. We'll do our best not to offend, and we're only happy to have seen Nifrir set free, as well as perhaps we might seek some aid from you. Is here a good place to speak?
She says, we can sit and eat in this room over here, and she's gesturing in this direction. So she kind of walks across from the bottom of the stairs towards this closed door, and opens the door and kind of gestures to you all to follow her and enter. And when you do, you see what looks very much kind of like a dining area. Like, let's see, is there anything else I need to notice in here? So, yeah, this is, as you see, right, there's a long table. There's stools and benches around the table. And, yeah, some kind of cupboards as well in here. So, she says, you're more than welcome to sit and eat. She says, I'm sure your journey has been arduous. She says the jungle is full of danger. So yeah, she gestures for you to come and sit. And you see that when she sits down now, you can kind of see why these chairs don't have backs, because her wings kind of drape down almost to the floor when she sits on these stools. But she gestures for you to have a seat with her, and not, well, I don't know. I'll leave it with you. Sorry.
Aelia moves one of the stools and slides it under the table and then stands in front of the table.
Okay.
I take a seat.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take a seat somewhere.
She says, she says, who is who? She says, she says, I am Asharra. You could consider me, the leader of this community.
Ulfgar would introduce everybody in the party, including himself, to her as well.
Okay.
Just keep it simple.
So not long after as you're kind of going through the introductions, another Aarakocra does arrive with like a plate of fruit, and some bread and a jug of water. Kind of all this kind of stuff is brought into this area, and you're encouraged to partake.
Does it resemble dancing monkey fruit?
You don't see any there.
Okay. I will partake, provided that it isn't, expected that something else happens beforehand, like a ritual or something.
Okay. No, I mean, you see, Asharra kind of, offers up the plates to you and encourages you to eat and drink.
Aelia takes some fruit and has a munch.
Okay.
Very happy. Thank you. It's nice to have a calm moment.
She says, I'm sure you have many tales from your journey through the jungle.
Ulfgar's eyes start getting a little bit big.
She says, but perhaps before we share tales, says you can perhaps share with me, what brings you to Kirsabal.
I give a brief description of the fact that we're looking for, the soulmonger and the whole idea behind the necromancer potentially being in possession of it, if not the source of it. and how we're trying to seek that location. Nefrir's offer to potentially fly. We're curious as to what that might entail and how it might potentially help us on our way. We thought if it actually granted us the ability of flight, that perhaps we could use it to easier locate and find the necromancer's lair. Or if it was more figurative, perhaps it might prove beneficial at the very least, as our allies seem to be things that we just need at this point. And we are also waiting for a couple of others that we were expected to meet at Mesro. I would kind of bring that in as well.
Okay.
And that they might follow us to Kir Sabal, and I'd give a description of both of them.
So she says, I understand. She says, this is a dangerous journey that you are on. So, of course, I will help in whatever way I can. She says, the flight that Nefrir was referring to is a ritual that I can perform. She says, my ancestors called it the Dance of the Seven Winds. She says, and she says it has been a long time since I did this. But she says this is very important, so I will happily do so for you.
Okay.
The ritual itself only takes a moment to complete. But it can only be performed by an elder of our community. She says, once the ritual is performed, it will grant all of you flying, the ability to fly. Unfortunately, it will only last for about 3 days.
That's still tremendous. The speed at which we're able to travel through the jungle is rather limited, as it is. I'm sure you recognize. This would greatly accelerate our quest.
Yeah, I have another question. Can it be performed outside Kir Sabal?
She says I much prefer not to for personal reasons.
We'll gladly take any aid that you offer.
But she does kind of look at you, but she says, I am curious why that would be helpful, though.
To me or to Tobias?
To Tobias, she says, she's kind of inquiring as to why you would want to perform the ritual somewhere else.
For this reason, because we don't know where we're heading.
She says, okay, I understand. She says, it is much safer if I perform this ritual here.
Okay.
Aelia butts in and says, Ulfgar, what kind of structure are we particularly trying to find in terms of the necromancer?
We're not entirely sure. We're hoping to get a bit closer. We've got the general area. I don't have the map to bring it up to show everybody, but we've got it narrowed down to this general zone between a couple of mountain ranges, where his lair may be or where he was last known to reside. The center of the danger, but there's no guarantees he's still there. And even if we were able to fly that entire distance, Perhaps in 3 days' time, we could feasibly make it if it's just flight. There's nothing holding us back, but it may prove useless.
Well, my thought was, if it's okay with Asharra, of course, is that we get the aid. We stay here for however long it takes us, but we get the aid of Asharra's people. Maybe a couple, maybe one can do it on their own, to scout that area and see if they can see anything from the sky.
That's not a bad thought. I'm not sure what help she can offer in that aspect. We are also still waiting for a couple others to show up that might be able to assist us as well.
I'm saying this all, by the way, in loud enough for Asharra to hear.
Okay. Asharra kind of looks quite concerned at this. She said, I must share with you that. Well, she says, but she asks you to describe Ulfgar where you think this is.
Green circle on the hex map.
Yeah. Okay. So she says, I must share with you that that is most dangerous territory. She says, we are, whenever we scout in that direction, we are attacked. She said by, she said, I think the common word, it takes her for a minute to think of like, says, I think the common word is gargoyles. She says, my people are attacked by these creatures. So she says, what you're asking is for us to, sacrifice some of the people, my Aarakocra people's lives for this.
Aelia, hearing that, waves her hand back and forth in a dismissal. I'm very sorry. I didn't know that was the case.
Of course, she says. How could you? It's she says nobody really goes that deep into the jungle.
I speak up. I'm like, look, I said, since nobody told her the reason why we're going there. I explained to her why we're actually going there and why we think the necromancer lives there and why we think he's behind the curse and all that, the whole thing and the reason why we're going. And there's also a mountain range down there that we need to get past, and having the flight would actually aid and help us quite a bit. But we understand that if there's things attacking your people, you don't want to sacrifice your people, then you already have to try to find out what's going on down there. But any aid or help that we can get is greatly appreciated. But it's something that we need to get done rather quickly.
She says, I understand. She says, and we'll do anything we can to help you along your way there. She says, as protector of my people, she says, I must look out for their best interest. She says, so supplies, and I will happily grant you flight through this very sacred kind of ritual. But she says, that's probably the best that we can do.
Is it possible that you could feasibly see if a couple of our friends that we were supposed to meet at Mesro might be on their way to Kirsabal? We left a message there for them, as we couldn't wait any longer.
The message.
Yeah.
She says, yes, we can send scouts further north to Mesro. to see if we find your friends.
All right. May we stay here in the meantime?
She says yes. She says, and this leads me to the further detail that I must share with you. She says, the ritual, the Dance of the Seven Winds, she says, it only requires one ingredient. She says, but this is an ingredient that I do not have. She says, it requires a fairly rare black orchid. She says, if you're able to bring this orchid, then I can complete the ritual immediately. She looks out, kind of like she's looking out the window, and she says, "But you may want to wait till the morning before you leave to find the orchid, if you decide to do so."
I would imagine if we did find it, Kellisto would be able to keep it alive with some of her magics.
She says, don't worry about whether it's alive or not. She said, as long as you can bring me the orchid. She says, I have to make a powder from it. And that is the catalyst for this ritual.
Right. Well, not that we're going to be on our way for it immediately, but where was it last known to be seen? So that we can retrieve it.
Southwest of here, there is a place called Nangalore. She says this is the last known. Here, actually, let me move you back over to your map so you can have a look.
Okay.
She says this is the last known place of this orchid. She says it was once a great garden. Now it is being taken back by the jungle. And when it was maintained, it was, had many of these orchids. But now there are very few. But if there is one, this is where you'll find it.
Sorry, I've got a whole bunch of handouts open right now, so let me scroll a bit.
Kashcah, could you ping the spot she's referring to again?
Yeah, let me, I will... Can I have the selector, please? Thank you very much. Roll 20. She puts it, she says that is where Nangalore is.
Okay.
And this is how you spell it.
Aelia asks Asharra a side question. Does the undead curse affect your people, Asharra?
She says, we do not have the means to resurrect our people, so I could not say whether it does or not. Because unfortunately, when we die, we do not have the option to return to life.
Well, I can't say that all of our people do either. There are those that have the ways of doing it, though.
She says, so it's gated financially. I understand.
Yes. You must be related to a politician.
I think I just kicked the camera.
Aelia asks if she can speak to Asharra privately after we've finished speaking here.
She says, of course.
I guess Ulfgar would ask one last thing before they finish their repast. I noticed that you had what seemed to be a couple of other humans among your tribe. Do they live amongst your peoples freely? Are there more of them?
She says, there are only the two.
How did they come to live here? If you don't mind my asking.
She says, well, if I don't tell you, she soon will, if she hasn't already. She says these are the last two descendants of the royal families of Omu. She says, the young woman is Princess Moxanare, and the young man is a little brother Na.
How did they?
We have taken it upon ourselves to protect them until the evil that is in Omu is resolved. Says we do this because this is the best hope for Chult.
Omu.
Oh, we forgot to mention that the place that we are trying to locate is Omu.
Oh, Mu. I thought it was Raznasi. Or is that the person? Oh gosh.
Snake person. Snake person.
So we're seeking Omu as well? I'm sorry, my notes are mixed. If it's not in the quest log, they're not that good.
Correct.
Okay. Looking at my brief notes.
Then our goals are the same.
Yeah, Raznasi told us to go seek Omu deep in the south in the Sunken City for more information on what we need.
Do any more of the Omu people survive?
She says there may be some amongst the Chultan, but she says, or maybe there are some small pockets of them in the jungle. But as far as I know, they've all been kind of adopted into the main population of Port Nyanzaru, or their ancestors have anyway.
Mm-hmm. And their parents? Referring to Waxanere and
Mm-hmm. She says, unfortunately, they are dead, long dead.
From a specific foe? Or just the menace at hand? I guess I don't know if there was like an assassination attempt or if it was like just a bunch of undead have been killing, etc.
She says, Princess Moxanare, it was her great grandmother, Napaka, who was the last ruling queen of Omu. Their father, Omek, died in a fall, actually, and their mother, Razan, was killed by terrafolk.
Seem to have some bad luck.
She says this is why we decided to keep them safe here.
Very well. That's all I've got. So, perhaps Aelia and Asharra have their moment?
The rest of you still kind of hanging out, eating, and...
Yeah.
Okay. So Asharra would say to Aelia, after the conversation kind of dies down, would you like to walk with me?
Aelia is glad to follow.
Okay. So she steps out of this kind of what you might consider like a dining room or with you, and kind of walks into the room where you first entered, and steps out kind of outside onto it's like the walkway balcony area, and she's just kind of like looking over the jungle from this balcony.
Aelia asks her if... Well, she explains to Asharra that she is that spiritual matriarch of her people, and that specifically she deals with the procession of their dead. And she asks her if she encounters her people, because she indicated during their conversation that they have run into a foul towards Omu before, that if she runs into her people, if Asharra or somebody who is of their people would show her their traditions for burial so that she can lay them to rest properly.
Mm-hmm. She looks taken aback at this, and says, this is a great kindness that you offer us. She says, absolutely, we would very much appreciate that, so we'd be glad to share that with you even. And
I would never let a spirit be lost, especially to their ancestors.
She says, why don't we collect your friends, and we can show you where you can sleep for the night, and I'll introduce you to some of the my fellow Aarakocrans who could show you this.
She's very happy with this and agrees and follows her back towards the others.
Okay. So, one second, let me look at one thing. Okay. Alright, and he is... Okay. So, she encourages you all to kind of, if you're done eating and drinking, she says, follow me, she says, and I can show you where you can stay tonight. And she'll take you back down through kind of the little building where you washed and dusted, and back through towards the dwellings.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, that she shows you a dwelling that you can stay in for the night, and says, and it's not yet sunset, but says that you are free to roam, in the monastery. She motions kind of further up the cliff to, let me take you back to the Kirsabal map. So she motions further up the cliff to here and says, this is the elder's house, she says, and at the moment I have the privilege of living there. She says, I keep it for the future elders. She says, but if you need anything, this is where you will find me. So she's kind of pointing way up to that. And it's about almost 100 feet up above you.
So we're staying here in this, or no? This is where she's staying.
That's the elder's house, and okay. You guys are being shown to kind of a space in these dwellings down here. But she's saying, you know, that you're free to kind of roam around this evening if you want.
Okay.
But she motions for you to come back with her, Aelia, and if you follow, she takes you kind of actually back to the monastery and introduces you to Aarakocra named Rikar, and says that he would be happy to show you the ritual as requested.
Great, thank you. And she studiously follows Emrika wherever Emrika points her. I don't know whether Emrika speaks common or not.
He does have some broken common words, yep. So he's able to kind of show you around that. I'm just trying to see. Okay. So for everybody else, while Aelia's talking to Rikar, what would you like to do? You've got probably a few hours before it starts getting dark. Yeah. So.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to try and find Nefrir and pull him aside.
Okay. Where are you going to look?
Just in general, you know, obviously I can only walk, like, I would imagine, probably this area is about as far as I could do. Everything else is, like, either broken or damaged or, you know, risky. So that's the only area I would be moving along.
Okay. Okay. How about you, Valia?
I'm just gonna go, I guess, find somewhere to hang out and rest.
Okay. And Tobias, is there anything that you and Arokh want to do?
For the time being, I don't know. We're just going to follow along.
There might be a certain lady who's got an interest in you.
Speak for yourself.
Okay, so all of you are kind of actually heading back up towards the monastery for one reason or another, right?
Sure.
You've been shown like the dwelling where you can sleep tonight, and now looking for Nefrir or looking for a place to hang out or whatever. So heading back up to the monastery, the dining area is empty, as is the kind of room where you saw meditation going on. That Aarakocra meditating. So you can head upstairs if you want to, or head like through the opening into that hallway. It's up to you. Where do you want to go?
Like I said, I just gonna go along the main paths to see if I can find Nefrir, and if not, I might ask a passing Aarakocra, and if I'll just say Nefrir, and I'll just see if I can find him.
Okay. Yeah, if you do, they will motion.
I might actually, before doing that, I might actually take the 10 minutes to ritual cast Comprehend Languages again as well.
Okay. Good idea. So yeah, if you ask somebody where Nefrir is, they'll motion upstairs. Yeah, that's about as much as you can. But let me show you upstairs, because it seems like you're bound to head up there sooner or later. So go upstairs, and there are 2 doors with a further balcony. Both doors are closed at the moment.
Okay. I guess wait, there's 2 doors. He's behind one of them. Okay. I guess I'll knock on this one.
Okay. It's opened by a very confused-looking Aarakocra, and there's not Nefrir, but behind him you can kind of see this room that's got a kind of low desk or a desk / table on it. It's got a bunch of stuff on it, I'll say, without a further kind of perception check, I guess.
Okay.
He looks at you. Bird head tilt.
I make an illusory image in my hand using prestidigitation of Nefrir and say, Nefrir? And I hold it
When
up.
you start casting, he stands back a bit, like, what's going on? Then when he sees Nefrir's image, he points to the door behind you.
And I just kind of bow and back away. Say,
Okay. Okay. So head over to this area here.
Yep. Knock, knock, knock.
And it's opened by another Aarakocra, but you see behind him there's a few Aarakocrans, and they seem to be in the middle of something, but they stop and look at you. It seemed like they were in the middle of something, but the knock on the door actually would have stopped. So they're all kind of standing there, and you see Nefrir is in amongst them, and he looks at you and comes over and says, "My friend, is everybody there, or just Ulfgar, or?"
I was kind of just gonna go try and find him by myself, if possible.
It's up to the others, right? Like, what are they doing?
Actually, I with Arokh, we have been staying with this guest room.
Okay.
The elder quarters.
Okay. Valia, are you going to follow Ulfgar, or he's looking very shifty?
Yeah, I guess I'll kind of follow around, just look around, and
Okay.
don't know what else to do really.
Excuse me.
You do see, like, when you look in the dining area, when you're looking for Nefrir, Valia, you see there's a few Aarakocrans sitting there, and they are, in the middle of eating. So you could definitely stay there if you wanted, or, yeah, it's kind of up to you. I know you guys.
I guess I'll sit at the table. I'll just kind of walk in and sit at the table.
Yeah, they push
picking
food.
at food.
Yeah, they push food towards you, inviting you to kind of tuck in.
Have some more food.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
So I was going to say, is now a good time? I'd like to speak to you for a brief moment, Nefrir.
He says, of course. What can I help with?
The ritual powder we use to clean ourselves with. And I do the same illusionary thing, and I make an illusion of what I was referring to in my hand.
Okay.
And I say, where did you get so much of it?
He says, careful collection, he says. He says, sometimes we trade, for more.
Okay. I'd be interested in getting some for myself, but I don't want to exhaust any of your supplies. I was just curious if you had someone that I could speak with in order to get more. Basically the idea here is Ulfgar feels they might be undervaluing this gold dust as mere sparkle sand, and it might be very valuable. But he doesn't want to steal from them. He just wants to know if there's an extremely large area that he could just like obtain some for himself, or if somebody else has been trading it to them for fish or something. You know, that's the idea.
Yeah, he says occasionally we find gold in the jungle that we can grind into powder. He says, or we trade for it we used to trade at more locations. He says, Port Castigliar used to be a good trading place for us, but that's since been abandoned. He says, so we trade whenever we can for it.
Okay. I had a question about the cleaning ritual that we did. Is that merely because we met Asharra, or is that because we passed the location that we were in and going above?
He says that's for entering the monastery. He says this building that we're in now, he says, is sacred space to us. So he says at least once per day before entering, we must wash.
That was the next question. Is how often we need to do that?
Every time. You mean you didn't wash this time?
Right. Excuse me.
That's it. Skygate for you.
I got it. Skygate again. All right. Well, if you have any ease of obtaining more of that powder, please let me know. I'll leave you to your friends here and go rejoin mine.
Okay. He says certainly will. He says it's becoming more difficult to source it by the day. So.
I was not sure.
Okay, so in the meantime, while this is happening, Tobias, you hear in your mind again the young woman's voice. You now know her as Princess Moixana. I almost said Princess Moixana.
Princess.
I like princess.
Twinsies.
Okay.
Princess Moixana. So you hear her voice in your mind again, and she says, I have a mission for you. She says, I need to speak to you with some urgency. She says, I see that look. Ulfgar, stop it. She says, would you meet me past the monastery?
Okay, I agree.
Okay.
For a meeting, not for the mission.
Okay. So she sends you this kind of mental image of a space, like, and you can see like through her mind's eye, kind of like her walking up the stairs. She's trying to give you like mental directions of where to meet her. So you get the idea that to proceed up the stairs from the room that had the mosaic, and then through the room where Ulfgar just was, and that she'll meet you just outside that room.
So through there.
Okay, understood.
Okay.
Which I think is like right here.
Yeah, like right. Yep, exactly, right there. Right there. Yep. So that's why she's kind of thinking to meet you.
Okay. You'd probably pass Ulfgar on the way.
Yeah. So I take it you're kind of going to go there straight away, or are you?
Yeah, I'm going straight that way.
Okay. So yeah, you do pass Ulfgar along the way, and yeah, Ulfgar, you see Tobias walking
Hello.
opposite direction from you.
I'd let him go about his business. I'd go down to meet up with the rest of everybody.
Okay. And actually, you probably also pass Aelia. So Aelia, the Aarakocra you were meeting with, finishes showing you kind of the ritual, and invites you to join him for food in the dining room.
Thank you so much. I will join you right away.
Okay. And when you guys get there, you see Valia is there as well with some other Aarakocrans, and there's lots of food kind of laid out again. And they all seem to be kind of eating quite heartily. The Aarakocran are trying to converse with you, but Valia, but it's very broken, common. There's like a handful of words between them. So there's a lot of like, finger signals and like them trying to describe things with their hands, and yeah, it's kind of an interesting attempt at a conversation.
Would Ulfgar have seen some of this happening?
Yeah, I think, and you could hear probably as you're coming down the stairs towards the mosaic room. You can hear this kind of you probably hear Valia maybe trying to talk back to them, because these Aarakocra are trying to talk to Valia. So you hear these voices from in the dining room.
I'd offer to translate as best I can.
Okay. All right. So they're kind of inquiring about your journey and what dangers you've seen in the jungle and kind of all this jazz. And if we can definitely kind of do some more of that conversation if you want to, in just a moment. So Tobias, you walk through this room where Ulfgar found the Freyr, and you see actually these Aarakocra are training. They're classic kind of D&D monk, martial arts training going on within this room. There's like 3 pairs of Aarakocra in there, and you kind of have to like dodge out of the way of a couple of like wing buffs and feet flying as they are training in here. So they do kind of like give you some little glances as you make your way through the room. But then out on the ledge outside, you see standing very proudly Princess Moixanare is standing very proudly waiting for you. So she kind of like sees you coming a little bit, and you see her stand up a little bit straighter.
You didn't give us an idea of how old she is.
She's about 17.
Okay.
Same
age as Tobias. No, I'm kidding.
So she very surprisingly thanks you for meeting with her. But say very surprising because it's like she acts as if this is a great kind of act on her part to say thank you to somebody who's not royalty. It's like a big kind of gesture on her part. So she thanks you for meeting with her. And then she says, I know you can help me if you are willing. She says, there is an item. Says, I think I spoke to you of it before. She says, if you can, I will reward, if you can bring this to me, I will reward you greatly for it. Says, I have a private treasury, she says. So I have some money at my disposal. And would gladly reward you, a substantial reward from my treasury, if you can bring me this chalice.
I would say I'm not impressed. Why do you need this chalice so badly?
She says, at first she seems to be like, she's pouting a little bit, you know. But then she says, she kind of looks at you and bats like her eyes a little bit, like, for me, would you get it? Would you get the chalice for me? And says that she says, well, the chalice is rightfully mine. She says, it's a symbol of office for royalty of Omu. Says, and as I am the queen, I should have it. She says, it will help me bring peace to Cholt. She says, it says it is not worth much in itself. It says, but I could, reward you with 500 gold pieces should you be able to return this item to me. She says, and of course, I would forever be in your debt, which is a great thing for a queen. That alone is worth more than the money.
I would like to make an insight check if she is telling the truth about the chalice.
Yeah, go for it.
If there's, I suspect there's something more.
Okay. Sure.
It happens to be the Soulmonger chalice.
It's cold.
That's what I am saying. Afraid.
Yeah, she seems to be quite genuine. Like, she believes that this chalice, has some value to bringing her back to, being the ruler of Cholt. Yeah.
The problem is we don't have much information about Omu. I would like to get some insight, and the way you quote unquote asked me earlier about this, I would consider more likely a violation of personal space.
Says I spoke to you as your queen and as your friend, she says, very softly.
I'm not buying it.
She says, well, I thought greater of you, but maybe you're just the same as your cohort. I can bestow my grace on others if you are going to be so insulting.
Very well, then.
So rude. You're so rude, Tobias.
She says, in this case, be gone. And she turns, and she's actually really emotional at this point.
Oh, dear.
And she just is acting kind of like heartbroken. And she says, just be gone. and she spins, turns on her heel, and walks away from you towards the building that is, further up the steps.
Okay, I proceed to return to the Elder Chambers.
And she does that thing where at first she's walking slowly, trying to be like all regal about it, and then you see her kind of like her head drop a little bit, and then she just like runs up the steps and into the building.
Oh.
Tobias.
I know, so rude. Heartbreaker.
I'm just gonna wander out of the area I'm in after I'm all full of food and kind of wander about looking for everybody.
Okay. Yeah, if you go upstairs, you'll see Tobias returning from breaking a teenage girl's heart.
I say to Tobias, I'm like, hey,
I suppose she's much older than this. She looks like.
I see Tobias, I wave at him, hey, where have you been?
Dealing with some personal business.
Whoa.
Cold, man.
Oh, did you, so you went and met the crazy girl, right? Because she had eyes for you.
Eyes. She more like to have maybe she have eyes, but she have no right mind.
Well, I could have told you that. I mean, she looked a little nutty. So, did y'all have your meeting? She was so like desperately wanting to talk to you. Apparently, so
Maybe she was like, acting a little bird-brained.
Oh.
Oh.
Perhaps.
Metagaming pigeon.
I'm like, well, if you had your meeting, maybe hopefully it went well. So, what do you think about this new adventure that we have to go on? This flower.
Unnecessary fetch quest. Yeah, but if that's the way to go, I think we have no choice.
Yeah, I'd say we just go straight to this necromancer and just stab him in the heart. But Ulfgar, we gotta help everybody out. Blah blah. You see me like doing impressions.
Spot on.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to do before or any other conversation there, Tobias, that you want to? Any other details you want to share with
I got
Vallen?
distracted by a cat in my face.
I'll wait until we get everyone back together.
Oh, can I insight or I guess insight Tobias, see if he's kind of acting a little strange.
What you trying to detect?
Go for it. Ooh, 20. He seems quite well, Tobias. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, he seems quite uncomfortable with something. With the encounter that he just had. Seems.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I look at him and I was like, are you okay? Do you need some food? There's a bunch of bird people in there if you go in there to eat. They'll talk to you a lot.
No, it's that I just don't like to be toyed around.
Ooh.
I'm like, well, okay then. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna go take a rest for the night. I suggest you do the same since we don't know what we're going to get into in this weird quest that we have been asked to go on. And I asked, I said, could Arokh by chance go check on Flippy and Vorn before he sleeps?
I'm
you know
sure
he's the only one that
they'll
can get
be
there?
fine. I'm sure they'll be fine. You're just worrying
I
too
just
much.
sigh. I'm like, okay. And I walk off, go find somewhere to sleep.
They can all kind of
From one pouty queen to another.
Oh, yeah. So as you guys are like walking past to go back to the other area, Ulfgar and Aelia are in the room talking with the other Aarakocra, and Ulfgar is 100% immersed in retelling the tale of our group to these guys, using his major image spell to illustrate the landscape. And at this point, when you're walking in, there's like a 3/4 view of the bridge that we crossed when the shield guardian like awoke and everything, except it's a bit different. You notice it's like shooting laser beams from its eyes, and it's got giant great bat wings and stuff, and it looks like 10 times the size that it was. And so he's like elaborating crazily, but he's giving like this little like 3D image view for everybody to see the story on, because obviously that's the best way.
Are we heroically fighting it?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, we're like
Right.
dealing
Yeah,
it
of
blows
course.
and stuff, and it's like just being demolished.
I just look in the room as I'm walking past, and I look at Tobias. I said, if you're going in there, good luck. I'm going to bed, and I'm too tired for that. I just keep going.
Excuse me.
Before I go, I would like to look for those. What's his name again? I would like to look for Asharra because she wanted to speak with me as well.
I think she's up here, isn't she?
Yeah, Asharra isn't anywhere in the dining area.
Are we going for refusal of the royals ×2?
Heartbreak Hotel.
But
Tobias likes older women.
but I don't think. Wait, had Asharra said? I don't think Asharra had mentioned speaking to anybody particularly. I think she'd said like, if you need something, this is where you can find me, kind of thing.
Perhaps Tobias was just telling the rest of us this. Tobias was going to put the moves on Asharra.
All right.
Let's try and seduce the entire Aarakocra camp.
No. I'm not trying to make another hybrid. That's the bard's job.
But yeah, if you want to seek out Asharra, she's gonna be up in her residence up here.
Ding, ding, ding.
I'm going to proceed then.
Okay.
This place.
Okay. And okay. So you
Having a rock with him, he would have the option to actually just fly up there if he wanted.
That's true. Do you want to just fly up there, or are you going to walk up?
I'm going to walk up.
Okay.
I'm Waxenare.
So you're walking. So you do pass by this house here, right? You guys are on this map, right? Yeah. Okay, just checking. And you see kind of a red-faced. Are you going to look in, I guess, or do you look towards the doorway as you pass, or are you keeping like eyes forward, like I'm not looking in there, like?
I'm just I'll be looking around.
Okay. So you do.
I just give a quick glance.
Okay.
That's all.
You do see Princess Moxanare, red-faced, and she's kind of sitting on this this seat. She's got like some, you can't quite see what it is in her arms, but she's got something in her arms, and she's kind of like red face, got her face like stuffed into it, you know. And then she sees you, and she tosses that aside and runs off beyond where you can see. So that's kind of what you see as you walk past that building.
So mean.
And then when you get to the top, let me show you the Elder's house. So you're entering in. So you're entering over here, right? And first thing you notice is there's a big hole in the floor. So it's a single room, and there is a kind of makeshift mattress under the stairs. There's also this star shape is actually a life-size wooden statue resembling a tabaxi, which is cat person, right? And you see, just as we saw at the other statue, there's flowers and offerings of food are at the feet of this statue. And it's just as with the other statue as well, it's very old. But yeah, that's kind of what you see in there. And then there are stairs going up to the side.
Okay, I just go towards the stairs, minding the gap.
Yeah. So yeah, it is quite dizzying. Like if you glance out of the hole in the floor, it is like that really is the sky gate right there. So yeah, down when you get to the bottom of the stairs, you can hear movement from upstairs.
I'll proceed.
You're gonna head up. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna head up.
Okay. I still got. Nope, I don't. I need the thing. Okay, there we go. Move this back out of the way. Okay, so you head up the stairs and you see it's kind of a hallway area, wooden baluster again around the stairs, and then there's a closed door.
I'm going to knock on the door.
Okay. Asharra opens the door, and you can see kind of beyond her is this room here. So Asharra opens the door. But even before you get there, actually, you see that the walls upstairs here are all decorated, with paintings of flowers, and somewhat kind of weirdly mixed in are mathematical symbols. So, like you saw the labyrinth, so kind of a lot of like geometric or mathematic symbology mixed in with the flowers, which seems like a really weird mixture, right? Flowers and these symbols. So, so that's what you see kind of all along the walls upstairs here and in this room beyond Asharra. But Asharra says, Tobias, says, welcome to my humble abode.
Humble indeed. You wish to speak with me, may I?
She says, yes, do come in. You see there's just one chair over by the desk. And it's kind of so in this room there's a bookcase as well, holding quite a number of really ancient looking books. What else? Yeah, and there's this kind of desk as well with a chair. So she pulls the chair away from the desk and offers that to you.
Well, I say thank you, but I rather be standing up. No offense.
Okay. She says, forgive me. She says it's just my age, I'm sure. She says, but I don't recall what I needed to speak with you on. Says, perhaps there is something you needed to tell me?
I would like to ask about the request from the princess.
She says, oh. She looks like, here we go. Like, almost like she's not surprised, slightly disappointed, but yeah. She says, oh, what has she requested of you?
To get a chalice from Omu, some sort of symbol of office.
She nods her head. She says, this does make sense.
And how many people before me get the same request?
She says, we barely get any visitors here. She says, has she been speaking with you? And she points to her head.
Yes. And that was many weeks before we get here.
She looks actually really surprised at this. She says, she is becoming more accomplished. She says that the chalice, she says that she's right. It's a symbol of royalty of Omu. She says it is actually crafted from the skull of one of Princess Marxanare's ancestors. She says there is some value to it because there are some jewels embedded in it. She says, but legend says that it's said to have the king was said to have been beheaded, and this by legendary Cholton hero named Chugakari.
Okay, so that's what she's not telling. She not tell me about this chalice.
She says, well, she may not want to put you off. She says, but it is the last place it was known to be is in Omu, and Princess Marxanare is impatient to be restored to her throne.
No, I never noticed it. Yeah, I suppose she didn't learn the lesson that respect must be earned.
She says, I understand her manner is a little excessive.
Lightly said.
But we have raised her to be a queen. And that is a great responsibility.
Yup.
I would like to get more insight about Omu, because either way we have just too little information just to head in.
she offers you and one of the ancient books from her bookshelf, and says, "This could perhaps offer you what you're seeking." She says, "Not all of it is legible due to its age, but it might offer you some insight."
Okay, thank you then. That's much more than I anticipated. Okay, I'll be on my way then.
Okay.
I'm very sorry to disturb you.
She says, "It's no problem at all," and she wishes you a good evening.
Okay, I'm making my way back to place where we're staying.
Okay.
Going past the princess's quarters again.
She, well, you don't see her right away, but if you want to have a look, then feel free to make a perception check.
Okay, very well then.
Okay, you did notice her kind of peering at you from the upper window of this building before you approached.
Okay, that's it. I'm still on my way back.
Okay. So,
Alright, stop it.
Sorry.
So yeah, I think everybody eventually kind of regroups down in the dwelling that you have for your overnight stay, and yeah, I don't know. Anybody sharing any bits and pieces before you?
Yeah, I'm sharing my conversation with Asharra and whereabouts about this princess request. During this conversation, I'm handing this book about Omo to Ulfgar.
Okay.
Maybe you will be able to see what's in this book. It's about Omo.
Is it written in non-common?
I didn't have chance to look upon it yet, but I assume in language that I will not be able to understand.
I open the book.
It is written in a different language.
Okay. Say, all right. I'll give it a look tonight. At some point before going to bed, he'd do a ritual cast to comprehend languages again and try giving it a once over to see what the book's about.
Okay.
And then, but otherwise, he'd be say, so you turned the queen down nicely, did you?
She's not a queen.
Aye, but she could be, especially if we're able to complete the task set before us.
Not with this attitude.
Actually, confidence, I tend to find, is a good percentage of what political leaders tend to need. Whether it be a bit foolhardy or not, often having it is one of the first steps. She may be a bit of, I don't know, impertinent from our view, but at the same time, I don't know what tracks she's tread. She doesn't know what tracks we have. I'll not be one to judge her. She may not be my queen, but she may still be a majesty.
I'm just...
And you never know. Maybe when she becomes of age, she'll be looking to take herself a king. Then he kind of gives you a nudge in the side. She seemed to take a shine into you.
A grim glare.
She seemed to take a liking to you.
I can assume not only me.
I forget how old your character is. Is your character like mid-20s, late 20s? 50s?
No. It's like mid-20s or late 20s.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
Shit. Age. I did not specify the age.
Okay. Well, somewhere in the 20s. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Let's assume 27.
All right. Well, maybe by the time we get all this wrapped up, she'll be the right age for you. And then, you two can hook up and rule the land together.
Good grief.
Yeah.
Well, just the same, I wouldn't just turn her down flat, though. I think we might be able to take this into consideration. Let me read a bit more about what this book has to offer, and we can have a fresh approach this come the morning. Maybe we obtain this flower that we need, and then we see what kind of time we have left. Perhaps our friends will still not have arrived yet. And there's nothing wrong with getting the favor of a ruler, or one that may be one in the future. At the very least, you don't want one angry at you. As he looks over at Valia.
I just shrugged my shoulders.
Excuse me. Sorry about all the coughing. So I don't have anything else to do that night short of just check out the book.
Okay. You take a glance at the book. You've got like an hour, right, to kind of absorb as much as you can for tonight anyway.
Yeah, unless I want to spend another 10 minutes to ritual cast it, but yeah.
So you see, you're not sure what language the book is written in. This isn't one you've seen before.
Okay.
But there's like a chapter on the royalty of Omu. So there's like a whole layout of like kings and queens, and King Harold begot. It just goes through the lineage. So there's hang on one sec, where did I put it? There it is. So it does talk about it seems like it was written kind of obviously a long time ago. It talks about the wealth of Omu, how the city's merchants were skilled, and the craft of the city and the general vicinity seemed to be jewelry, which was coveted far and wide, and this brought a lot of wealth to the city. In fact, so much so that it was said that to enter Omu was to enter the gates of paradise itself.
Oh.
However, it does talk about like there's some slavery going on as well.
Hooray, slavery in paradise sounds great.
So there's some talk of, some discussion of that in there. And also discussion of Omuans kind of taking control of Chult. So there's a whole chapter on like military kind of activity where Omu's feared legions marched across Chult, and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also mention very frequently of a god called Ubtao. And Omuans primarily worshipped Ubtao. And there's a discussion about the clerics of Ubtao. And
Ubtao's like that crocodile man god that we've been experiencing, yes?
did that directly mention that? Hang on one sec. I have to go look at this.
Okay. Because we ran into like the guardian of Ubtao on the bridge, and I thought that we found like the crocodile man statue at Camp Righteous, which might have been a statue to Ubtao or a temple to Ubtao. Maybe, I don't know. But we've heard the name a few times.
Yeah, I mean, actually, excuse me. Actually, I don't think it's my place to comment on your perception of what you've experienced and which parts are Ubtao and which parts aren't. So.
Okay.
Okay. But there is kind of talk towards the end of the history of that part, where it's talking about the clerics of Ubtao. It talks about some of them starting to lose their spells. So yeah, there's let's see,
That's no good.
But it does give you the location, kind of, or describes the location as you understand it, because it does talk about the geography of Omu as well, and also describes the city as. Hang on 1 second. As being kind of in a slightly lower, like it's in a depression in the kind of geography, if that makes sense.
A valley?
It doesn't really say a valley.
Okay.
It's talking more about like almost like a giant sinkhole but not particularly deep,
Did a dragon live in a swamp at the bottom of it? Excuse me.
It does talk about a palace that was built within the city, and I would say that's probably about as much as you can get from your hours reading.
Is there any like pictures or maps?
There is a drawing of the palace,
Yeah.
but there isn't a specific map.
Okay.
I don't think. Hang on. Not that you've found so far. How's that?
Okay. I'd share what information I can with Tobias first thing in the morning. I hand him back the book. There may be some more information in there, but that was just a precursory glance is what I was able to get from that.
Did you get something useful?
No. No, the Omu were a powerful nation that ruled most of the island we're on now, but times have changed, obviously. They had quite the hold on the land, but they seem to also have a lot of wealth, which is probably what gave them this. So perhaps if we find Omu, we might gain access to some of this. At the very least. So like I said, I don't know that we can't, potentially try and find this chalice for your girlfriend. I mean, your friend. So,
Yeah.
I think at this point, though, we're ready to take off for the flower.
Yeah. So so just to kind of bring it to a close for today's session, the following morning, you're greeted by Asharra and Nefrir, and they inquire if you're going to take on this mission to get the flower.
I think that would be wise. I don't know of any objections in my party. Are any objections in the party?
Yeah, Aelia would certainly show interest in assisting.
Okay.
A Pegasus Centaur.
Yeah, so rad. Again, another, glam rock cover.
Pegacentaur. There you go. Excuse me.
So if everybody's in agreement, then they offer you transport down to the jungle floor again.
That would be lovely, so I wouldn't have to spend the spell for it.
And Aelia, you see that they have managed to rig somewhat of a harness for you.
Yay!
So that you can be carried with a little more comfort, shall we say?
Fantastic.
So,
I guess they just lay across it and they hold each end.
Yep, they've got this great piece of leather kind of stretched out between this whole framework. So yeah, it looks pretty sturdy. They'll transport you all down to the jungle floor. There you do find Vorn and Flippy unscathed. If only Vorn could talk. And I think we will leave it there. Looks like you guys will be. They do give you directions. Say it's. Let's move you back to the play map.
I'll hand them our map that I have.
Okay. Yeah, they mark Nangalore on there and say it's a few days journey to the southwest.
How do you spell it? MANG.
I put it in chat actually.
Oh, okay.
In
Nangalore.
Roll20 chat.
Whoops.
Nangalore, sorry.
Gotcha.
So they suggest traveling southwestish to the river and then following the river around a bit. That should lead you right up on it, they say. So that's their suggestion. But they do say to stay to this side of the river. They say it's more dangerous on the other side of the river.
What's this
Stay
side?
to the
east?
The east. Yeah, stay on the east of the river, they say.
Okay. And follow the river down and then Nangalore.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
So we will leave it there to pick up that journey and the quest for the Black Orchid next time.
You might want to tell them if they happen to see a big giant golem walking in the river or a roaming T-Rex, it's not our fault.
Yes, we didn't. Well, thank you all for playing. I know it was a very kind of talky session. It was kind of inevitable with coming across these new characters in your story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, heck, how many episodes have we been constantly just battles and fighting our way tooth and nail through the jungle? So.
Yep. So this one was very, very much the opposite.
Yes.
So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming out and watching. Thank you all, players. And I'm going to end it here. So we'll see you all next time. If all goes well, we'll be running on Sunday as before. So,
Yep. Sounds
Yep.
good.
bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.